Hey guys, welcome back. And today we're going to be making some easy and very tender spare ribs. Even if you've never made these before, no worries, because this is probably the easiest way to make them. The spare ribs are this part of the rib cage under the baby back ribs. And no, baby back ribs don't come from baby pigs. The spare rib bones are a little larger and they have a good fat to meat ratio. Baby back ribs have a slightly denser meat and are more expensive than spare ribs. But still, spare ribs will give you a great meat eating experience when cooked right. Now first, we fire up the grill. I don't have a smoker grill, so we'll take care of that in just a minute. We turn the gas on and only light the first two burners. We're looking for a temperature to be around 250 degrees. And because I'm using a conventional propane grill, I have one of these. It's called a smoker tube, and I'll leave a link to that below. You simply put the pellets in the tube and then light it with a blowtorch. It's really that easy. I'm using Bear Mountain mesquite pellets, but you can really use any kind of pellets you like. We're looking for that great smoky flavor. And with a little magic, we fill the tube like that. Now, I didn't fill it all the way to the top. This amount will last for about 3 hours, which is more than enough time for the ribs. Next is our first executive decision, what type of rub we're going to use. I'm using this one with a little salt and pepper. It's Kinders or Kinders, I don't know how to say it, but here it is. Or you can make your own if you like it more sweet or savory. It's your choice. Next is we need to get rid of the membrane and trim up the ribs just a little bit. I'm using a butter knife and going along the second rib just under the membrane. Now, you don't have to do this. A lot of people will just score the membrane, but I like to try to remove as much as possible and grab a paper towel and pull it out the best we can. Now, take your time because this does require some patience. Just go along and trim up any loose pieces, anything that's kind of hanging out. Presentation is important. Next is to dry the ribs off with a paper towel. Anytime I cook meat, I always dry it off first. It helps the rub cover better and stick to the meat. From there, we add some kosher salt and pepper. And then our rub. We want to be generous at this stage. All those spices get down into the meat and give it a really good flavor. And remember to pat it, don't rub it. It'll move all the seasoning around. We flip it over and do the same to the other side. Now, I'm not going to bore you by doing the other three. You can do that the same way. And we mop everything up, or at least as much as we can. Leave as little behind as possible. Then comes the fun part, lighting the smoker tube with the blowtorch. Now, don't rush this part. It may take a couple of minutes to do this. We'll want to let it burn for a few seconds and then blow it out and allow it to smolder. That's where the flavor is. And our temperature is at 250 and cook time is about 3 hours. Now it's time to put the ribs on. I'm placing them on the opposite side of the lit burners on the cooler side. Don't put it over the flame. We want it to cook slowly. The other two ribs are smaller and they're not going to take as long to cook, so I'm going to put those on later on. All right, it's been about 3 hours and they're looking good. We're getting some nice color on them and the juices are starting to rise to the top. And our next executive decision is what brand of barbecue sauce to use. We like Sweet Baby Ray's. It has a really good savory flavor. Many people like a sweeter rib, so they're going to use brown sugar or apple juice, but for me and my family, we go for the savory. So let's add some barbecue sauce, however much you want. I like this much. You can use a brush or the back of a spoon, either one will work, and I'll show both. And just paint it on the best you can. Flip it over and do the same with the spoon. Now I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to wrap the ribs first in parchment paper. We found out that my wife is slightly allergic to aluminum and nickel, so parchment paper will give it a nice barrier. But don't worry, I'm going to use aluminum foil. And the parchment paper doesn't decrease the texture or flavor at all. For the foil, we have the shiny and dull side. We'll want to have the dull side facing out. Fold it up and seal it off. I have these 3 others, but I'll skip over that. All 4 are finished and time for the grill. Now we still have our temperature at 250. And remember, these go on the cooler side, not directly over the flame. So it's been about 3 hours and the ribs are done. Let's unwrap them and take a look. They look absolutely amazing and the meat is pulling away from the bone nicely. Now, I'm an old schooler and I use a thermometer. I found that tender ribs should be around 190 to 200 degrees. If you like your ribs a bit firmer, you can try for about 170 to 180. Now comes the moment of truth. Cutting into it. Oh, dear heavenly days. That is super juicy and falling off the bone tender. A little wiggle, and we're finished. Folks, ribs are one of the easiest things you'll ever cook. It does take a few hours and some prep work, but believe me, it's well worth it.